I'm just going to speak a bit about my dad. So my dad, who died 3-4 months ago, when he was 88, had been ill for a long time. When I was in my teens, he had his first heart attack, bypass, emergency bypass, and really a lifetime of increasing unwellness, I suppose. In the last 2 years, he couldn't really get out of a wheelchair. He was breathless, had bad aortic stenosis, had ischemic heart disease, of course, and couldn't really get around outside of his wheelchair. So he had a period of decompensation, complete heart block, had a pacemaker put in about 6 weeks before he died. That meant he had to be in hospital for 5 to 6 weeks, which he hated. He hated it there. So then one Sunday, me and my mum just went to the ward and just nicked him home, basically. I could see it wasn't going to get any better. He came home, and rapidly over the next 3 weeks, his mobility to get around the house just got worse and worse. From being able to go to the kitchen, to next door room, to just being around the room. So I could see this was only going to end one way. Did I talk to my dad about end-of-life care? He always said, Rob, I don't want a do not resuscitate order. In fact, he explicitly said that. But then I said, Dad, do you want to go back to hospital to have some more care? No, I never want to go back there, he said. I never want to go back there again. It was terrible. In fact, he said it was torture, in fact. I thought the medical care was great, actually, that he got. But it was obviously really horrible being alone, apart from my mum, apart from us and my brother. So I had to resolve those in some way. He didn't want to go back to hospital, but he didn't want someone not to resuscitate him. Over the last week of his life, he became a bit confused, agitated, and wasn't really capable of having a fully consenting conversation, or consenting to anything, I think, really overtly in the sense that we think of consent, as in weighing up the decisions and so on. His GP, who was amazing, came round and started to talk about things in general terms. If you were to get unwell, what would you like us to do? That didn't really float his boat, didn't really get what she was getting at, which is fine. But he said, I don't want to go back into hospital. And probably a few days before he died, myself and the GP had a conversation about the lack of usefulness in resuscitating him, to put it any harsher, if you like. My brother was there, who's similar age, not medical. My mum was there, 82, not medical. And I don't know whether they were reassured by me taking on that conversation. They were worried at the time that we might be denying him treatments that would otherwise work by not resuscitating him. And I said to them, we're not, he doesn't want to go back into hospital, so obviously if we resuscitate him, he has to go back into hospital. And secondly, we're not denying him. I was reassuring them, and a bit, I think, reassuring the GP that we weren't denying him any treatments that were going to help prolong his life in a way that would be okay to him. I think being a medic who's done some intensive care, critical care, I felt it was easier, but also I'd also had 30 years in my head to prepare for this in a way that I'd thought about it a lot. It's always been in the back of my mind that my dad was going to die, very likely before my mum, before me, of course. And I'd always had it in the back of my mind he was going to die. So I thought my GP coped very well with the fact that I was a doctor. She sort of took control a bit, which is great, with my prompting, but that's okay. We sort of negotiated things. And I'd be interested to speak to my mum and dad about, my mum and my brother about it, actually, to see how they felt. But I think it was easier for me being a doctor because I had the medical knowledge to know actually nothing more could be done with my dad in the way that he'd wanted. I think I never really talked about it with Dad throughout his conscious life, throughout his life that he, as I know him as my dad. He was a hospital biochemist, not a doctor. And he always said, I don't want a do not resuscitation order put on me. He actually did a degree in his 70s in medical philosophy, actually, called Lies and Deceit in the NHS. So he was concerned with the truth. But of course, against that, we've got to balance reality. So what do I think? What do I regret? I don't regret anything about the whole incident in the general sense. I'm proud to look after my dad at home. It was an amazing experience, actually, an amazing experience. Probably one of the most amazing experiences of my life. But I do feel a bit of difficulty that I didn't talk about it with him. But then I also think, well, he didn't want to have that conversation overtly. So the only time Rick and I sort of lied to him, I think, in a way, he said, is there hope? And we said, yes, there's always hope. And actually, of course, I knew there wasn't hope in the sense that he meant it, as in hope that I will recover and live. But that felt cruel and harsh, and I had to make a quick decision when I'm speaking to my dad. So I thought that was a kind thing to do. So I was always acting in kindness, I think, and out of love for him. But yes, I'm a bit ambivalent about not talking to him, but overall, I wouldn't have done anything different, I think. I think it wouldn't have changed what we did now, here and now, so then, rather, for my dad a few months ago. I think he probably would have said, I want to be resuscitated, probably. And then it would depend on my response. Would I have pushed him to say, well, that would mean you have to go into hospital? How are you with that, Dad? Are you okay with that? I think that it's what I could have done. I could have left that document, excuse me, there, just to have a conversation about that. Oh, Dad, what did you feel about that? Do you think it was okay? Do you think it was not? What would you like me to do? So I think it would have been useful to have that chat. I think in more general terms, people have a variety of responses to that. My partner feels she's a vet, and she feels she'd like to be put down effectively if she were not in a position to dictate what goes around her, what treatment she had. That's a pretty extreme point of view, I think. I don't feel that way. I think you can also change your mind as well at various parts of your life. So I think it's a good thing to start off the chat. That's what I think. And it's a chat you need to have on an ongoing basis at different times. And it's about phrasing as well. Actually, in the, when I said to my dad, Dad, do you want to go into hospital? He said, no, I'll never go in there. Well, I thought, well, then there's only one answer then. And I didn't need to persuade him that he was saying no to treatments that were going to save his life in any meaningful way that he would have liked.